All right, we're on. Another great interview. This is somebody that I've recently met, which is kind of neat, but I've actually read a bunch of her short stories already, and I am very impressed. Gabriela Stiteler, welcome to the chat.
Hi, Armando. Thank you so much for having me.
So you are. I know we've talked before. You want to do. You're looking for more longer stuff, writing a novel and stuff. But I got to tell you, you're killing it with the short story stuff. You really know how to write that tight 5,000 words or less. Uh, you know, 3 act story. It's not. You're not writing a scene. You're writing the exact thing. So how does that work for you?
I I think that a lot of my writing is really, but it takes place in my head first, right? So, and you and I have talked a little bit about this, how it because of where I am in life and just baseball games, working, running between things. It is easier for me to kind of conceive a beginning, middle, and end of a story and hold on to it.
Mhm.
So I think that one of the reasons I really like short stories right now, and in terms of process, it really is just an idea will come to me, and then I'll just mull over it and think about it and think about it and think about it, and really think about how to almost make it worse for whoever is in it, like how to get this as bad as I can,
Right.
or how to go as deep as I can, as fast as I can. And I think that those are some of the things that I've been like playing with a little bit. And in the short form, you can really do that. And you can be in short stories. You and I have talked about this too. You can be really experimental. You can take real risks and try new things in ways that um, you don't feel like you're overextending or overcommitting yourself to. It's just something that you're really trying and stretching. So I think when it comes to my process, it's a little bit like that. And then I usually will think about it and think about it and think about it, and then I'll knock out an idea or a piece of it, and then think about it some more, and then come back. And by the time I come back, I'll have almost like the full draft done. And I think I've heard other writers, there are a lot of other writers who I think also do a lot of like the thinking first, and then
Mhm.
they start putting the ideas to paper. Um, so I like that part of the short story process. And um, I really like, and I'm sure we'll talk a little bit about this, I really like things that go deep. And I think for me, it's easier to stay in that space where it's like a deeper, darker world for like a bite of time than to
Right.
be in that space for 70 to 80,000 words.
Yeah. So how fully formed are you? Like, are you like, here's my outline and we're doing this, or is it like it's all in my head and I just need to write 5,000 words?
Yeah, the second part, I think. So I have friends who their process is more like I jot down all these notes and I have a fully formed outline. And I think a lot of that just takes place in my head. So
Mhm.
an example of this, I got I got deep into heists for some reason, and I don't I don't remember. This is like last time we talked, but I was just like I came across I was thinking, you know what it was? It was we were talking about Saint of the Narrow Streets, and I was like, man, I love that book. And then I started to think about where I'm from Pittsburgh, and I was thinking about Pittsburgh in the 80s, and
Mhm.
just like that near historical sort of like time period that
Right.
I have like a certain amount of nostalgia for. And then I was like, I bet that this would be a great place for like a heist. I had like these two characters that were kind of playing around, like these cousins. Um, and then the heist, I fell into like a little bit of a rabbit hole in the heist like genre, but then also real heists that happened in Pittsburgh.
Yeah.
And there was like a great heist in 1982 that's never been solved. And then from there, I'm like, well, what if these two characters were involved in that heist? Like, what would their role be, and what would that look like? Um, and so I guess the characters kind of came first, like the time and place and characters came first, and then the idea of like the heist being like sort of central to their relationship, and then the secondary characters came in. But all of that was there was like one. idea, like almost 1,000 words that I knocked out. And I was like, I'm done. This is just microfiction. It's short. And then like, I just kept coming back to it. And I was like, no, this is a bigger story. So it ended up being closer to 7,000 words, but
Oh, wow.
it was like really, I don't know. It was really fun to write.
Yeah, I saw you on the short story on the message board.
Yeah.
You posted, and a bunch of people were giving suggestions. I was like, I don't want to be that jerk that gives my own book, but I'm going to do it now because this is my podcast. This is my interview thing. So the Johnny Bell Heist trilogy that me and author Tom Duffy co-wrote together.
Oh yeah.
And it's a little different because the heist is a heist in a prison.
Oh.
So he just got out of prison and now he wants to break back into prison for a heist. And things do not go well for his crew. But that was a lot of fun. That was a lot of fun to read. I was reading all the answers to your question. I'm like, please somebody be a jerk and say their own book so I can say mine. But I don't think anybody.
There were several people that did private message me.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
With their own thing.
Well, I figured, I was like, you know what? I'll talk to you. I'll talk to you in another week or so. So
I love that. That premise is really cool. The idea of somebody like you would not think about wanting to break back into a jail. Right. Yeah. So I just
of all the places to rob, casinos and banks and other things. And Tom Duffy came up with the whole concept. He literally said to me one day, he said, I would love to write a heist book. And I said, me too. And I said, well, let's write one together. And then and we're both pantsers. So we just were like chapter, like no idea where this was going to go, and we ended up doing a trilogy.
That's how you write with him, right? So it's like boom, 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 boom. I think that's really cool.
We just finished our third trilogy together, and we immediately started a fourth. So we're really good at figuring out what the other person is doing, or throwing a curveball in the book and saying, "Hey, let's see what you can do with this." So it makes it a lot of fun.
I love that idea because I think that would be like a good way to work in like different twists, but also keep the writing fun.
Because you're at this point when you're writing that with somebody else, you're writing it, you're always writing it for the reader and you're writing it for yourself, but you're also like, let me see if I can get him. Let me see if he understands where this twist is going to go or what we can do with this character. And it's always fun because then I write my with a little twist and then I'm like, okay, if this is a book I was just reading, what's going to happen next? And then that's his next chapter. So it's a lot of fun. Sometimes it doesn't go the direction you want it, but most of the time that direction is in a better direction because, I didn't even think of that, which is a lot of fun.
Oh, I love that. Well, I wrote down that and I am going to check it out. So thank you for your
I appreciate that. So you've had some really good success in I'm quite envious. You've had some really good success with your short stories in a lot of really good places lately.
Yeah, I feel really fortunate. So I actually really benefited. I had a friend when we rewind, like going back, I actually have written manuscripts before, like full 95,000 word manuscripts. And we've talked about it. They are sitting in a drawer and they are not very good. And maybe one day I'll like resurface them, but maybe they will stay buried.
Right, yeah.
But I just hadn't like quite figured it out yet. And I went to the Crime Bake, which is the New England Crime Writing Conference. It's in outside of Boston. And it's like just a really wonderful 250 crime writers come together and just talk shop. And I went to a short story panel. There's a regional anthology that comes out every year where it's regional writers who Susan, Ange, Christina, and Leslie Wheeler, they have been doing this for some time. And I went to that and listened to the writers talking about like where their ideas came from and what why they not even prefer short stories, but like why they like to write short stories. And so then I was taking the Downeaster back from Boston to Portland where I live. And I was just like, I'm going to try one. I'm going to try to knock out a short story. And I had all these ideas kind of like in the back of my head. And in that 2-hour train ride, I knocked out like a 5,000 word draft of a story, and I shared it with a friend. And she was like, you know where you should try to submit this? Ellery Queen, because Mystery Magazine, because they have a department of first stories. And if you look back, you already know about my love for short fiction and the mystery publications that like really sustain the genre. Ellery Queen and Alfred Hitchcock Magazine are like just outstanding. But Ellery Queen's department of first stories, when you look back at the track record of people who have started in that, it is like a gift to the genre, because you know how hard it is to like even know where to start sometimes. And then from there, it happened really fast. I submitted the story, and Janet, the then editor, like within almost like a month and a half, emailed me back and was like, I'm interested in this. And I was like, great. And at the time, I really don't think I knew that it was like, and I'm really I sound kind of like a big asshole right now. But like, I don't think I knew it was like as big of a deal as it was. And then that story went on. I had like immediately after that, in rapid succession, some of the other stories that I had sent out also got picked up. So, because I was like, oh, this short story thing, I like this. Like, I can think of the idea. I drive a lot for my job. So I like really think about murder a lot in the car, and then go to a hotel room and write a little bit about murder. But then I found out about the acceptance, and then that it was nominated for a Fish Award. And then I was like, wow, like maybe I am a good writer.
Yeah.
And then
I think the funniest part about all that, though, is you jumped over tens of thousands of authors who have been trying to get into, that prestigious of a magazine for so long, and then you're winning awards and everything. And the greatest part about this, your attitude is like you didn't realize, like you didn't, you didn't go, oh my God, I just did. Like, it's great to be accepted, but it's like you started at the top.
I know. I will say, like, I didn't even know, like, it wasn't even on my radar to pay attention to like Edgar's related stuff.
Right.
And then like Chris Holm, who's a Maine-based writer and a friend, I was in the middle of like a work thing, and he texted and said, by the way, you're nominated for this thing. And I was like, that's bananas. So it was really like, that whole experience was very cool. And I will say, like, I do just love, it was the first short story that I wrote, but I have been like deep in this genre for a very, like, since I was a little kid. Like, I've read all iterations of all things, and I love it. So, and I love films. Like I love like murder ballads. Like, I love it all. So like, I do think that even though it was my first short story that I'd written, it was not like, I wasn't like dabbling in the genre. I am a crime writer. I love crime, mystery fiction, suspense, thriller. I love horror, but I don't know. We can talk about that. I feel like horror and thriller for me, I'm like, what does that even mean? Why are they even different?
Yeah, well, yeah. There's some tropes there is really the only difference for me. So then how does it feel to see your name on a cover of a magazine? I mean, how cool is that?
Oh my God. It's like, this is bananas. Yeah, that was really cool. And I'll tell you this, like, so I had a story in that Ellery Queen, and then the immediate next one too. And I've been getting just like incredibly nice emails from people, like complete strangers. And that's happened a couple of times with other things that I've written, but this is the first time that I feel like people, like what I'm writing, people are really starting to see and pay attention to. And that feels really cool too. You do it for the readers, but you also, I don't know, I also do it for myself. And so it feels really, really, I don't know, like knowing that you're connecting with other people and that they're seeing your story for what it is feels really, really cool.
I mean, you know what? Let's be honest. It's good. It's good for the ego. It's good, that push to keep going. And those people are going to be your first 1,000 readers. in that group, and they're going to look for everything that you release. They're going to be following along, whether it's your Amazon, your newsletter, whatever it is, and anything you put out, short story or novel, whatever, they're gonna buy, which is phenomenal, because when you first start, you get a couple of friends and family buy your stuff, and oh, that's nice, and then you get that first email from somebody you have no idea who they live across the country, and your story touched them enough that they wanted to know more about you, and that's like just a great feeling.
Yeah, it really is. And it's just like, for a long time I taught, and I taught 8th graders and we did a lot of narrative writing and story writing, and they did a lot of really cool things. And I think a lot about how really powerful it is to be able to write something and have somebody that has no relationship with you, no knowledge of you, like have them connect with the universal idea or whatever it is in their story, something that they're connecting to in that way. It feels like uniquely human in a way.
Right. So now for you, are you just working one story at a time? Do you do multiple?
I feel like that. I have a story that is longer that I am currently working on. And then I also am very oh, a heist. Let me write 7,000 words about that. So I have a couple of and I read something yesterday, and it was about beautiful suffering. And I'm like, oh, there's a story coming from that idea. And so I think it's always going to be like a couple of projects going at one time, a longer one that I'm like chipping away at. And then these shorter ones that they're like really, they're fun to write. They're energizing. And I get to try new things. Like the last one that I wrote set in 1982, I got to try all sorts of different things that I wouldn't have otherwise tried.
Mm-hmm.
If it were a longer story, I probably wouldn't have wanted to invest that much in some of the choices that I made. So I think multiple. You work on multiple too, right? You're not
Oh yeah, I got 6 or 7 projects at once. Yeah. Now, are you writing stories based on okay, let's see what's out there, let's see what themes, let's see who's open, or are you just like, I'm just going to write a story and I'm going to see if it fits anywhere?
I just write the story and I'm like, who can I send this to? And sometimes I have a couple where I'm like, I have no idea who to send this to. And the one that I just finished, I'm like, I sent it to somebody and I'm like, I don't know if they're this thing that I wrote. I don't know who. I don't know. We'll see. We'll see if somebody wants to. It's weird. Yeah. It's not. But so I think I just write the stories, and then now there are some places where I'll have a character like Ellery Queen. I have a couple characters that are recurring, and actually this was a topic in the listserv too. Like if you have a series, do you? And I don't say this is a character that you've already published, but I will that particular character, if I write a story with Annie as the central role, I'm going to send it to Ellery Queen first, just because they published my first story. Yeah. There's that relationship there.
Yeah. Which is always a tough one, because, they're not looking, this, unfortunately, we're not in the 1920s, pulp magazines are looking for serialized writing the same characters. They just want a good story. Doesn't matter who the character is.
Yep.
And it's not, for me, I started reading that thread, and it's basically, okay, I've written a bunch of stories with this character. Should I submit it and let them know there's 2 or 3 other stories on that? And I would, for me personally, I would steer clear of that, only because you don't want them to think, oh, great. You don't want them to think anything less of you, or oh, this person thinks we're going to buy 4 stories from them or something.
Yeah, or I have to, or the story doesn't stand alone.
Right.
I think there's that too.
Yeah. Or it could be, oh, you wrote 4 stories and we like 2 of them, but the other 2 just don't meet what we're looking for, or so, there's so many, there's too many negatives. I always say publishers are looking to reject, they're getting 400, 500 stories, and you got 8 spots in your magazine or in your book, whatever, that's open. So their first thing is, let's immediately just reject anything that doesn't fit in our mindset. And I feel like doing that is like, oh no, we're just gonna move on. I would be very worried. And maybe that's just my own paranoia of doing this for so long.
No, but I don't think that's paranoia. I think that's experience.
Yeah.
You have a knowledge of the industry and sort of a yeah, I think that makes sense for me too. I mean, when I submit stories though, I don't feel, and when I submit the short story, I feel like it's like one line, please consider this story, this many words, this genre.
Yeah.
And then like, if they request, like sometimes a publication will request like a brief biography or whatever, like, and I'll do that. But I try to keep that. It's short fiction. They don't want to know the synopsis. They just want to read the story and they'll decide,
Yeah. Yeah. They also don't want a 5,000 word bio from your 500 word flash fiction piece either, which is funny. All right. I got a couple more questions for you. So the first one is, obviously you are very well read in the thriller genre. You've been reading it for your entire life. 2 or 3 authors that really you read that for you, like, this is the reason I write what I write, kind of
thing? I knew this question was coming. and I was like, thriller, all right. And I'm gonna just say, like, I think the first one is like my abuelita is like, it's in your blood. And I think that it's just true. I grew up on like the golden age, like all of the old, like Sherlock Holmes, all of that stuff. I just grew up consuming Agatha Christie, like all of it, like that golden age stuff. And then like when I was a kid, like, so I think like that's like undercurrent in the water. And then when I got older and really got interested in just like how people are telling stories, there are 2 that really kind of stand out. One is, and I don't even know why. Have you ever read The Stand by Stephen King?
I am not a Stephen King fan.
Yeah, I read it one time. It's really long, but I remember like, I don't just remember being like, wow, like there's so much happening there in this one space, in this one book. And so I remember like that. And then the other one, it's not, I don't know if you'd call it a thriller, but I kind of think it was. It's Margaret Atwood, and she had this book called The Cat's Eye. And I loved it because it's like it's a relationship. I read it in high school. It's a relationship between 2 high school age friends. And I remember being like, oh, they're like, it's a complicated, not good relationship. And I remember reading it and being like, yeah, this is on all ends. Like I've been the person, the main character in that story is not a good person, but she was very relatable. I was like, yeah, that's like, I have been that person. and I just, it was like, there's like I don't even remember it very clearly now, but I remember just like being disturbed by it because I could relate to it.
Right.
And so I think that those are 2 that kind of come out. And I don't even know why The Stand, like I was trying to think about like why, but I just remember I have like a visceral memory of reading that at my grandmother's house and it being really big and me being like, this is like
book.
Yeah.
My mother's still a huge Stephen King fan, so I grew up rebellious. I was the Dean Koontz fan.
Yeah, so I knew that about you. Yeah.
Yeah, I read everything Dean Koontz. I've read especially the short stories of Stephen King, which I think are way better than I've read a couple of the books, and
they're long.
You get to the point where you're like, just shut up and just get to the point on this stuff, where he does that great in a short story.
Yeah, and it's so interesting because the other writers that I was thinking about, so he's long. I mean, maybe that's what it was. I was like, this story is long. It's so like, there's so much to it. And it's like, where are we going? All of these different characters and subplots. but then the other I really like Robert B. Parker, and like I love like they're tight, like those stories, like every word kind of matters, like the ones that are really well written, and so I kind of like that style too.
So for you, who are some of the authors that you're reading now that more people should be reading?
Well, I already said William Boyle, and I love that book so much.
And we got, last time we were on the phone, you brought it up, and I got excited because I had just also read it, and it is just a phenomenal book. The Saint of the Narrow Street.
Yeah, if I would like say, pick that up if you haven't read it. It like the story is good. The characters, he just goes so like really develops the hell out of those characters, and then the way he structures the story over time, I don't ever feel like pacing is an issue. It moves it like a good clip. But he gets so much detail in there. Like you and I talked a little bit about this. I feel nostalgic when I read that book for reasons I'm not from that. Like I'm
not from Brooklyn either, but right? you feel like you're there.
You do, and like you feel like you know those people. Like I'm like, yeah, I get it. So I love that one. Of course, the ones that probably everybody else always says is like Megan Abbott and S.A. Cosby. I love all that stuff. And I'm gonna just say, you and I have talked about Jordan Harper too. But I'm gonna I like binged. I think you mentioned it. And then I was like, all right, I'm going to see this guy. And then I like read everything and was like, this guy, like Last King of California is so good. Like I know he does screenwriting too, but it's just like the way he tells that story is really visual. It reads like a movie. And I really love it. And then his short story that was in the BAM, the Best American Mystery and Suspense, like My Savage Year, that's what it was called. That story is so good. And so I'm like, here's this, and I read the collection of short stories that he has too. And then I know he's a screenwriter, but his other story, not The Last King of California, the other one with the daughter and the father. That one is movie now too. So I'm kind of curious to see the movie, and I've been listening to some podcasts with him where he's talking about that process, and it's just really interesting.
I'm excited to be meeting him at BoucherCon, and then I'm going to try to sucker him into doing one of these interviews afterwards too, and I'll definitely be. I'm going to try not to fangirl as much as possible.
I think if you fangirl a little, it's okay.
All right. I'll tell him, listen, Gabriela said I'm allowed to do this.
He's going to be like, who? But like the other two, and I know you said two, but I'm going to just say two more. Gabino Iglesias, who
phenomenal.
He's so good. But also just like, he came to Crime Bay last year, and he is just like such a good person when it comes to just generosity, and just like when you talk about like literary citizenship, like it didn't matter. People come up to him about the cozy that they're working on, and he's like, let me help. Like, I'll help however I can, and it's just like very cool. Like his writing is amazing. And then I like watched him just be incredibly, incredibly generous over and over and over again. And I was just, anytime I can really celebrate him, I'm going to do that. And then Morgan Talty, I don't know if we've talked about him, but he's really good too. He did, his debut was The Night of the Living Res. He's a Maine-based author. But like The Night of the Living Res, I loved it. It's short stories that are all taking place in like the same world, and they're all interconnected. And there is definitely like a mystery that kind of courses throughout them. But I read it as like very noir, but it's really good. And then his most recent book, Fire Exit, is also absolutely outstanding.
I will definitely add that to the 5 billion books on the TBR pile. Every time we talk, we give each other like 12 books back and forth.
I know. Do you have any other ones that I should add to my list right now?
I've been reading a lot of nonfiction lately, so
Mm.
it's not a ton that. And I bought a bunch of noir books based on whenever I do these interviews.
Yeah.
Every interview, somebody's mentioning somebody, but I haven't gotten to any of them yet because I'm still reading. I'm still reading a couple of nonfiction things right now.
I did the deep dive, the Patricia Highsmith and the Dorothy, what's her name? Dorothy Hughes. I definitely did their tight, their stories that are really tightly constructed, and then they were made into films that I love. But those are two that I've gone back to a couple of times in the past few years too. But those are one I'm like, well, I've read and reread those ones, and they're just really good.
Right. Well, you and I could sit here and talk for, I don't know, hours and
Literally
throw
hours, yeah.
5,000 books back and forth, but we will get in touch again. And thanks for coming on and doing this interview. I appreciate it. Good luck with everything. Keep getting your name on all these magazines,
Right,
and stuff
right.
that I keep getting rejected at.
It is only a matter of time.
I know.
No, and how many short stories have you published?
If you don't count all the garbage I posted in the 90s, I think I've probably published close to 100.
Yeah. So it's I wouldn't say that you're a slouch.
No. You know what though? It motivates me that I'm like, I can't, every time I try for Alfred Hitchcock or Ellery Queen or any of those, I get rejected. So it's like, okay, I just got to keep going and keep going.
Well, and that's what the listserv does too. Like you will every once in a while see a post and someone's like, this is my 116th and I got in, and you're like, that's amazing.
Yeah, that's really cool because I've written a ton of novels, but I've also written a ton of short stories, and I like doing both. I enjoy the process. I enjoy let me get this, let me write a drabble. It's 100 words, but it's got to be a story, and it's just the fun of doing that. But then to know I'm not like in the 90s, I'm sitting there by myself like an idiot writing these stories thinking nobody else is doing this. And now there's hundreds of us idiots that are doing this just on that listserv, which is great.
Yeah, and then that's a plug for anyone who listens that is not a member of the Mystery Short Fiction Society, right? Short Mystery Fiction Society.
Right.
Join it. It is free, and you just learn a ton about different people's experiences, but also about the industry and publications and what's out there.
Yeah, and everybody on there is very open. So we're not. It's not just, hey, here's a list, and we're just going to say all of our acceptances. There's people that are talking about, like you just 118 rejections to this magazine before they got it. And who's good to work with, who's going to what conventions and all this other stuff. So it's really, really fun to be on there.
100% agree.
All right, thanks for coming on, Gabriela. I will talk to you soon.
Thank you so much. Talk to you soon. Bye-bye.